ownership of the pool. Also, it worth to note that we do not charge any fees or any sort of payments from staked user funds. Hence, it's completely free to participate in Pana token launch. Also, there is not locks and any kind of prevention from withdrawing funds anytime. With that staking pool up strategy, we aim to distribute Pana tokens steadily over a long period of time, so anyone can participate even if they are late joiners. That's one upside of this strategy is that it doesn't favor early joiners more and instead treats everyone equally. So it's only dependent on amount of tokens you stake and the time you wanted to participate. Finally, because there is not any kind of payments required to obtain Pana tokens, we drastically reduce our possibility, reduce the possibility to be treated as security by United States laws. So this is all about token launch for now. We soon will host a separate MA session solely dedicated to the token launch specifics. So I am moving to the next slide. Tokens. So our protocol is basically two token system. We have Pana and Karsha tokens. Both are ERC20 compatible tokens, which is a standard for fungible tokens widely used in Ethereum blockchain networks. Following this standard means that both Pana and Karsha tokens potentially can be used in other protocols if those protocols support ERC20 tokens. Pana token is our base token, and its purpose is to facilitate protocol functions. It is minted as rewards for bond purchase and also serves as underlying token for Karsha. In turn, Karsha is a primary exchange token for our protocol. Also, it is a governance tokens, which means token holders will have rights to participate in governance decision in Pana DAO. And since Karsha token is rebasing, it accrues more Pana rewards over time via rebasing mechanism, and also these rewards are portable across blockchains network. Karsha is minted as a bond payout during bond purchase, and actually it is the only way the one can acquire Karsha. So also both tokens are not pegged to any currency. In other words, they are not stable coins, and price will be subject to market conditions. I would suggest to read our documentation to get more information about tokens. And now I'm moving to the next slide to discuss bonding and treasury. Sorry, not that. So bonding is a mechanism that allows Pana DAO to grow and accumulate its own liquidity. Users can purchase Karsha from our protocol at discounted price in exchange for liquidity tokens. Again, this is a bonding mechanism is not something new. It was introduced more than a year ago by Olympus DAO, and basically we forked their source code and modified it to meet our purposes. One important modification I want to note right here is bond discount dynamics. In general case, bond discount offered is determined by token price and bond demand at time of bond purchase. So, uh, for example, discount increases when Karsha price goes higher or bond demand goes lower, and vice versa. Discount decreases when Karsha price falls or there is a high demand for Karsha bonds. So the latter case can lead to bond discount to go negative, effectively stopping users from buying bonds for time being until discount leaves negative area again. In our implementation, we prevent discount to go negative by introducing zero discount floor. Such approach allows us to continue offer bonds even in unfavorable market conditions. That is important for us because bonds are the only way to acquire Kasha. From technical side, this is implemented by bringing a time-weighted average price oracle into our system. We use it Uniswap sliding oracle source code as a base for our contract implementation. The source is available in our GitHub for everyone who is interested to dive into it. It also worth to note that we plan to offer only liquidity pool tokens based bonds for master treasury. The reason is our goal is to accumulate own liquidity, and currently we also have no plans to grow our master treasury size in terms of stable coins or any other non-liquidity pool tokens. As for master treasury, all funds acquired by the protocol goes into a master treasury contract. It is like a central smart contract, which means Pana tokens during bond purchase and during rebases. The tokens owned by master treasury also can be used to support loss ratio peg mechanism, which I will discuss next. On this slide, I outlined how bonding and master treasury works, so you may find it helpful to understand it better of how this bonding system works. So when user purchases a bond, he or she provides liquidity tokens in exchange for Karsha with certain discount to market price. Treasury in turn means new Pana to cover payout plus extra plus extra 30% of payout as protocol reward. This, by the way, is another deviation from Olympus original model and model used by other Olympus forks. Instead of funding DAO wallet, we leave protocol reward at master treasury, therefore growing its ability to sustain loss ratio peg operations. Finally, when bond matures, bond payer can claim the requested Karsha. Internally, master treasury treats the difference between token current market price and base value as a protocol profit. which is used to sustain Pana minting during rebases. There are two other differences from original Olympus model that we introduced. First, we start with internal uh, base value of Pana to be 1 penny per per Pana token, while Olympus in most of its forks use $1 per token valuation. Here we intentionally want to make our token cheaper to support our main goal to serve undeserved. And another one difference is that base value is not hard coded and can be tweaked based on market conditions and protocol and as protocol evolves. So we leave this right to adjust token base value to the DAO itself. Again, the source code for bonding, master treasury, and other smart contracts supporting rebasing mechanisms and related implementations are ready and public. So I suggest to look at our smart contracts repository for the implementation details. Next, we have loss ratio peg. As this is completely new mechanism. We designed it and developed it from scratch. It manages the supply of Pana and Karsha in their respective liquidity pools and ensures that certain amount of token supply increase goes into the liquidity pool. Hence, the protocol bandwidth grows along with token supply increase. Initially, we start with loss ratio target to be 22.5% of supply increase, and we may change it in future using DAO governance vote. Technically, a loss ratio mechanism is triggered on every bond purchase and uses PANA and LP tokens available on master treasury balance to increase or decrease supply in a pool. For example, if PANA supply got lowered below target value, loss ratio mechanism will try to add more PANA to the pool, and vice versa. If supply is higher than target value, it will pull out PANA from the pool by burning LP tokens it currently owns and use underlying token to swap in exchange for PANA, therefore reducing PANA supply ratio in the pool. It is important to do not misinterpret loss ratio peg is a stable coin kind of peg, because it is not. It does not care about token price but liquidity. By managing supply ratio, we want to ensure our protocol always have enough supply bandwidth to avoid high slippage during parametric events, payouts, or rapidly changing market conditions, etc. Also, it is important to note that loss ratio peg is not guaranteed to work 100% of time. It may pause on its own if there is not enough funds in master treasury to sustain its operation. Finally, loss ratio contract source code is already public, so please take a look at it in our GitHub repository. If you are a developer, we would appreciate any inputs from you. Next, we have assurance NFTs. Yeah, that's something completely new, and we have to develop from scratch. we are at early stage of implementation of it. Assurance NFTs will be implemented as ERC 1155 smart contracts, as opposed to the ERC 72, ERC 721 standard, which is standard for NFT non-fungible tokens. ERC 1155 gives us more flexibility in terms of developing and offering various NFT collections which differ by sets of parameters. It also provides an ability to contain and work with ERC20 tokens, which is important for our assurance NFT design, as it involves cash accumulation inside NFT. As for principal payments, they must be paid via purchasing Kasha bond, but unlike to Master Treasury bond, this must be naked bond in stable coins. In this way, we can guarantee positive return on non-volatile assets. So no liquidity pool bonds, no some high liquidity tokens like Ether or other tokens, only stable coins for principal payments. Other important difference in insurance design is disaggregated treasury concept. Every principal payment goes to the specific treasury, which is deployed as a separate smart contract for every NFT collection. Such design allows us to isolate funds of every collection. It is important as those funds then will be used to buy back NFTs after parametric events occurs, and additionally it allows DAO governance to decide on separate investing decisions for the yield per collection basis. Yeah, and as I said before, that is something new, and we are working on development tasks for assurance NFTs. So I think that is all I have from my side. Do we have any questions?
You and the Q&A chat that have been going, and we've just been answering them as we go along. Not sure if anybody on the call would like to ask other questions. There's a Q&A channel that you can type your question into. Go ahead and type it into there, and we'll answer the question there, or we'll answer it here verbally as well. You can see we've had a bunch of back and forths during the presentation from ZX, so feel comfortable posting any questions there. Maybe we can talk about them verbally here for a minute. Thanks for going through that, Alex.
Sure. I hope it was not too complex explanation.
No, that's good. So we have a question. ZX, maybe you can answer a few of these. So for launching, we've got with staking and bonding and auto staking. Curious why the sequence of events. I think the question here is why is there a sequence of events going from like a phase 1 to a phase 2 to a phase 3? And why do we have auto staking that's happening? I'm not sure if you want to answer those.
Yeah, so phase one is a token launch, right?
Yeah.
I think I not quite get the question. So token launch, we are going to start as early as we can. The goal is to grow community and distribute token. That's why we are going to start with only token distribution. So from my point of view, why we are going to start with only with staking and without bonding is to distribute tokens as much as possible in a fashion of fair launch, right? Also, as I said during presentation, the main one important reason for such kind of launch is to avoid be treated like security by United States laws. In that case, we can allow to participate US residents without any possibility to break any laws. And also we also won't be subject for regulation from US government.
There's maybe a couple other points there too. Would be auto staking is something that is a little bit different than what other protocols have done. And the main reason for doing auto staking is that staking in and of itself is kind of a wasteful process. You have to spend gas to stake, and then go do some more actions, perhaps with the token that you get in return. So we're trying to cut out some transactions. What we found is that if you look at the different protocols out there, um, more than 90%, sometimes more than 99%. It varies, but most people who hold the underlying token in these bonding protocols typically will auto stake, especially if the token that they receive in return is one that can be used in DeFi, as opposed to locking the token, right? What's the point of having to go through the staking process if the token that you receive is one you can use in DeFi? So we're just trying to cut down on gas and cut down on complexity. We don't think that there's any benefit to having to stake and then bond. It's just a senseless two-step process that really should only be one step. You can also unwrap your Karsha and get down to Pana if you wanted to get it. So there's no loss in the ability to use either Karsha or Pana in the process. So I think people will appreciate the user experience. It'll be a better user experience. It'll also increase security as well, by the way, fewer transactions, fewer contracts. For the loss ratio of 22 to 23%, if it's all right, ZX, maybe I'll take that one.
Yes,
Yeah, the most insurance companies will try to keep their loss ratio around somewhere lower than 80%. And by the way, Vita Shoka, you're welcome to jump in on this one too, because some of your history there too. But what we're, and I want to be clear that the number may be different than 22 and 23% as we get going. Some of this we're going to have to learn together as a DAO what the right ratio is. But we chose that number because if you have a higher loss ratio than that for the Pana protocol, it means that more and more people are just dumping Pana into the liquidity pool. And that I'll be honest with you, it communicates that perhaps there's not a favorable reason to hold on to the token. But we're almost the inverse of the loss ratio that you would see with an insurance company. We want our loss ratios to be, in this particular case, significantly lower. If we were up north of 80%, we are then in that case very much like a insurance company, in that if you get north of 80%, then pretty much everybody's dumping the token, right? So, but we want to be much lower than that, and an insurance company can be, in the 80 percentile range and still be solvent. And of course, we'll be solvent at whatever the number is, but we think that the number is the inverse of the what you typically see in the insurance space, which is an 80% barrier. Once you're north of 80, you start to become insolvent. In our case, we think we don't think we can get less than 20, because we need to have enough supply and liquidity pools, but we would prefer not to go higher than that if possible, by incentivizing everybody through a protocol that everybody's proud of and wants to participate in and feel like they're getting insurance value from. But again, we'll adjust that as a DAO. We'll have conversations, in these AMAs and in the channels, and see what's working, and we'll adjust accordingly. Think of it as a way to detect, are people holding or are they dumping, and we'll have to adjust the protocol based on what we learn from that. I don't know if Fitoshoki, you want to add anything?
No, I think that's good.
I want to add to the previous, to the answer to the previous question is, for example, if you don't have auto staking, in that way you need some additional token, like a staked version of Pana, like S Pana. And effectively, with after the staking approach, we remove the Pana from circulation, so it's kind of more simple for from the point of view of external participants. And for regarding launch and bonding approach, which we turn later stage, I think what is the first, we want to distribute tokens, right? And we focus on that. Once we decide to turn bonding, it serves a very different purpose. It is for acquiring our own liquidity, right? So during staking phase, first phase, we grow our liquidity, because people will be staking for Pana distribution, and thus we will grow our liquidity for our protocol, but it wasn't owned. It wouldn't owned by us, and by turning on staking, we incentivize users to sell their liquidity pool tokens to us for Karsha. So eventually we would own our liquidity ourselves.
Yeah, it sounds kind of complex. It is. The main reason for doing it this way is we're trying to simulate what you see happening in the insurance industry, between lowering the amount of losses we consider tokens being sold into the liquidity pools. In other words, dumping to be a form of loss. Think of that as the analogy. So we want to limit the amount of dumping or losses, which means we want to design a protocol that people want to hold on to. The way that insurance companies remain solvent and eventually profitable is by denying claims. Well, we're not going to deny claims. Our word, we consider we're building here to be very democratic. You can pull out anytime, and everybody can sell their NFT back to the DAO when a parametric event occurs. So since we can't deny claims, we don't have that as an option like insurance companies do. Well, we need to incentivize people to hold on to their NFTs. And one of the ways to watch how healthy that is, if that's working, is to watch the loss ratio into the liquidity pools. It's actually pretty cool. As a mechanic, you can see whether or not we're being successful in designing assurance NFTs that are attractive by seeing how much are people dumping Karsh and Pana into the liquidity pools. And we'll talk more about it in the future AMAs. You can see it in the Git book too. But when you think of it that way, then it's actually very elegant because it does actually create the same kind of behaviors that insurance companies force on you by denying claims. But instead, it does it through a positive reinforcement feedback loop that says, hey, hold on to the assurance NFT because the longer you hold, the more of that treasury could potentially become accessible to you. Your ownership share increases. So we're trying to incentivize you to not make claims versus telling you can't make claims. Different psychology. It's a very positive approach to managing insurance. So anyway, very elegant, I think, and you'll notice in the Git book is obviously written somewhat academically. It doesn't do a great job, maybe making it sound as cool as it is. But I think everybody, once you dig into it, you'll find that you really like the design mechanics. So we tried to mimic what you see in insurance, and more specifically in the Lloyd's of London model. It's not exactly the same, but that we kind of took some hints from that when we designed this. Zedex, did you want to add anything else to any of the other questions you see in that channel?
Yep. So Shadow of Dot Ahori asked a question about what is the factors which would base value depends, right? Basically, that's about so base value is what in other protocols call it intrinsic value, Harikiha. So if you can chime in and give some use cases when we want to increase or decrease base value, which will start with 1 penny per penny. Please do, because as of this moment I don't have any use cases when we can increase it or decrease.
Alex, who did you want to chime in? Sorry. Zedex, I missed who you wanted to chime in on that one.
Sorry, could you please repeat?
Did you want somebody to chime in on that one and add some more context?
Yeah, I want to. If you have any, if you personally have any use cases on your mind, how when we are going to increase or decrease intrinsic value, which is called base value in our protocol.
Mm-hmm.
Please
Yeah.
do.
No, I think this is something that we're going to need to discuss as a part of the protocol maintenance and determine, if we're going to want to change the base value or not. It's, to me, the base value is a DAO discussion. Whether or not we choose to put that up for a vote or maintain that as a part of just active governance in the governance forums. And I know right now we don't have the governance forums open because the protocol is not live, but once it's live, maybe it'll be up for vote. Maybe it'll be just live discussions. We'll have to decide with the group what's the most transparent way of doing this. But this plus the assurance NFT designs, I'm sure even the Karsha bonding mechanism for the master treasury will be open for discussion. So up for vote, governance vote, and or up for governance forum discussions. Whatever is going to be the most transparent with the best governance, we'll work together with everybody to determine what that is. What we don't want to have happen here, and Shadow Gory, thanks for asking this question. What we don't want to have happen is that people feel like it's being manipulated in a way that doesn't make sense. And so we'll want to make sure we have open discussions about any kind of adjustments. I think a protocol that is based off of insurance, is based off of loss ratios, that's based off of independent NFT collections that act as insurance policies, if you will, that it's important that these different factors are adjustable as we learn what the right mix of parameters is when you have a protocol that's as sophisticated as this. And so, it's just something we'll have to learn together and talk about. And that's how we're looking how to govern it for now. We're attempting something here that nobody's done before, but we feel pretty good about it because we're borrowing from a lot of different protocols, and then we're also borrowing from a process that's worked for hundreds of years in the real world, and just recreated that same protocol in crypto. So we feel pretty good about it, but I think we're going to learn a lot too.
Agree.
Anything else at XCC in there that we should address? That maybe needs to be
No,
adjusted? Okay.
no, I think everything in the chat is covered.
Does anybody else from the team want to chime in with anything? I know Chandra Gupta wants to say something. He's been just chomping at the bit.
Sorry, I just want if you can elaborate a bit on the reward rates. I think it will be covered in the next AM as well, but if you want to give a brief summary of how people would be investing in something that is free and how would they be getting rewarded over that launch period, maybe.
Well, do you want to go ahead and chime in on that one? Now we've had a lot of discussions about this. You might do a better job than I do. Well, I'll chime in, I guess, with just a bit. And Chandra Gupta, you should feel free to jump in, by the way, because I know you're on top of this. But the reward basically is identical, as ZX said in his presentation, to what you see with some of the other protocol launches that have been out there, where you're able to stake the tokens that you have and then receive an emission of Pana for that. The emissions that are issued each day are a constant amount of emissions that are issued each day. And so the more people who stake, obviously that's spread across everybody who's staking. The main differences in emissions and where they're allocated are going to be dependent upon those who stake into the Pana DAO liquidity pool will receive a higher allocation of the emissions, and those who stake Pana will receive a higher allocation of emissions. But the goal here really is exactly what ZX said in the presentation, which is you're not paying for those tokens. I mean, you technically probably are, I suppose. In some respects, if you want to buy liquidity pool tokens for Pana DAO, in some ways you might argue you're paying for it, but not really. You're just buying a different type of token. The actual delivery of the Pana token itself is free. I mean, we're not charging anybody for that. It's intended to be something that everybody can receive who wants to participate. And it's a fair launch, about as fair as you can get. There's never perfectly fair launch, but It's the best one we've seen in terms of putting it out there and saying, hey, we really want this to be a commodity. It's a tool to be able to manage the protocol. And so for that launch period, everybody will be rewarded for participating with the hope that it will get spread out across as many people as possible in terms of ownership of Pana. The same will be true for Karsha, which is the bonded token. Once bonding starts, it'll actually be started at the same time that the rest of the tokens can still be staked to receive Pana. And in emissions, Pana emissions will also be granted to those who are bonding with Karsha. And again, within the spirit of trying to distribute the Karsha token, which is the governance token. So when we go back to talking about how we govern all of this, well, it'll ultimately be through the Karsha token that governance votes will be submitted and participation will be granted. So we want that to also be as distributed as widely as possible. So everybody here who wants to participate can participate and help us with designing and making decisions about should it be 22 to 23% or should it be like 40%, or should we have, what kind of parametric events should we have, and how is the treasury allocated, and what are the investment protocols that the treasury takes advantage of? Are there specific investment protocols that people prefer? Lots of important conversations, and that will come from owning Karsha as a part of the governance. But it is intended to be as fair as possible and as widespread as possible. That's why it's free at the beginning. Change group, did that end? Do you want to add anything to that?
I just wanted to emphasize here that it's literally free stuff that we're going to offer during launch. I'll cover more specifics in the next AMA, but this is just equivalent to free lunch, you could say, and there's nothing being lost by anyone over here. It's just easy to invest in free stuff. That's about it.
To your point, I mean, like if it drives the price down, that's fine. The goal here, this is not a price discussion that we're having here about this. This is about trying to get the token out and distributed into people's hands. So naturally, if the price of the token goes down during that period, that's just fine. We want people to feel like they can get involved, stake whatever they may have, receive it, hopefully hold it, because they're hopefully will be curious to see what happens next. But we're not doing it to manipulate price or anything silly like that. At the end of the day, the token will take on whatever the market price is, and we'll work together to see where that goes from there. Yeah, so it's pretty much a free lunch, if you will. It may not be worth a whole lot. We believe eventually over time that it probably will, but that it's subject to a lot of design discussions and decisions and support from the DAO. We'll see where it goes. But for now, we're not worried about price. We're worried about distribution, so we can get the protocol to come alive and see where it goes from there.
Yeah, so just get your hands on it as soon as it launches.
Yeah. And we may keep that open for months. But that's again another thing we'll discuss with everybody here. Decide what makes the most sense. Anybody else from the team want to add anything? I'll make sure if somebody had something they wanted to add. Zedix, anything? Any closing remarks?
Yeah, just a suggestion to check our documentation, read it, and if you are a developer, please look at our GitHub repositories. If you have any questions, please post it to Discord. Yep, that's pretty much it.
Cool. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Appreciate the questions. Yep. Thanks.
Thank you for joining.